where we begin Act 2 with the chorus. And the chorus, notice, prepares us for what's going to come following. So it's not really commentary, it's pre-commentary of what will happen. And the chorus does, as the chorus did at the beginning of Act 1, tells us where the play is now set. So the beginning, we're set in London. The second, Act 2, we are set now in Southampton. Okay? And we start with a scene not dealing with the king and such, but with Bardolph and Nym and Pistol, Mistress Quickly, okay, who's called the hostess here. And I'm going to skip most of that, except for just a couple of lines. Act 2, Scene 1, line 88. Page 885. Boy comes in. Boy is Falstaff's squire. Okay? And he comes in and says, "Mine host, Pistol, you must come to my master, and you, hostess, he's very sick and would to bed." And then the hostess, Mistress Quickly, says, "The king has killed his heart." Now, remember the scene that we saw at the end of the previous play when Hal completely renounces Falstaff. Okay? Very loudly, very publicly. But what does he say privately to him? So that Falstaff can hear it clearly.
Clean up and I'll let you move up.
Clean up and I will advance you, he says. Reform yourself. What does he mean by that? Take after me. See what I've done. Okay? And I will advance you. But he's not going to let Falstaff live in poverty. He says, I'm going to keep you maintained. All right? Though, of course, we see the sheriff immediately throw him into jail. He's obviously been released from jail between then and now. The king has killed his heart. Okay? Skip a bunch more. The hostess leaves and stuff. Pistol and Bardolph act like they're going to get in a sword fight. And at the very end of the scene, 117, the hostess says, "As ever you come of women, coming quickly to Sir John. Ah, poor heart, he is so shaked of a burning quotidian tertian," that is a fever, "that it is most lamentable to behold sweet men come to him. Nym, the king hath run bad humors on the night." That's the even of it. That is, the king has expressed his displeasure. Nym, thou spoke the right. His heart is fracted and corroborate. Now, he means his heart is broken. But that's not what he actually says. Nym, the king is a good king, but it must be as it may. Why does Nym say that, and what does he mean?
Sucks the king is so good at being a king.
He has to do this. That is, the king has got to behave the way he does. Because it wouldn't really fit for, let's jump up to our current princes. For Prince Harry, take William out of the equation for a moment, for Prince Harry to become king while he's off gallivanting in the nude in Las Vegas in front of, cell phones, right? It's just not the right image you want to convey. You don't want him being sworn in as king, and having CNN doing the nice side-by-side imagery of this great and mighty convocation at Westminster and him dancing around in his birthday suit on the other side. He passes some humors and careers. Look at your gloss. He lets pass, or he indulges in some idiosyncrasies and capers. That is, the king allows himself to indulge in some things, but obviously not in others. Well, what's he indulging in now? As king, or getting ready to indulge in? War, battle. Okay? So, we pick up with 2:2. Thanks. Yeah, if you need to leave, go right ahead. In fact, if you want to leave now, you don't need to stick around.
That's fine. There's nothing to do right now.
Okay. So the king's going to come in, and we're going to see Scroop and Cambridge and such. So the king talks to them, and then he addresses Exeter. Line 40, 41. It says, enlarge the man committed yesterday that railed against our person. That is, free the man that yesterday was speaking ill of me. We consider it was excessive wine that set him on. And on his more advice, we pardon him. So what's the king showing to this person who railed against him? Mercy. Scroop. That's mercy, but too much security. In other words, you're giving him, this individual, too much security. You're allowing him to go free. Let him be punished, sovereign, lest example breed, lest other people rail against you by his sufferance more of such a kind. King, oh man, let's be merciful. So we've heard Screw. So may your highness and yet punish to, in other words, you can be merciful and still, let's use a line from Merchant of Venice. You can be merciful and still exact your pound of flesh. Grace, sir, you show great mercy if you give him life after the taste of much correction. He's essentially saying, throw him in the tower, put him on the rack, torture him, but let him live. Letting him live will be mercy enough. Alas, your too much love and care of me are heavy orisons, prayers, against this poor wretch. If little faults proceeding on distemper, what does distemper mean? He doesn't mean the disease. It means out of temper, out of control. If little faults proceeding, well, why was he out of control? He had too much wine. If little faults proceeding on drunkenness shall not be winked at, he was drunk. How shall we stretch our eye? Notice, not wink. Stretch. Open it widely when capital crimes, chewed, swallowed, and digested, not a spur of the moment, in other words. These are crimes that the people have done what? Well thought out, premeditated. How shall those appear before us? No, we're going to free them. And so the king says, who are the late commissioners? That is, the people who have lately received a commission. This is like an officer's commission. Me, Scroop, Cambridge, and Gray say. So, okay, and he hands them their commissions. Then Richard, Earl of Cambridge, there is yours. They're yours, Lord Scroop of Masham, and Sir Knight Grey of Northumberland, the same as yours. Read them, and I know your worthiness. My Lord of Westmoreland and Uncle Exeter, we will aboard tonight, aboard to sail for France. Why, how now, gentlemen? What see you in those papers? That you lose so much complexion. Well, look ye how they change. Their cheeks are paper. Why, what read you there that have cowarded and chased your blood out of appearance? Why are they so white? I confess my fault and submit me to your highness's mercy. Well, the king was just talking about mercy. The mercy that was quick in us but late by your own counsel is suppressed and killed. Quick in us but late by your own counsel is suppressed and killed. What does quick mean? alive. As in when St. Paul talks about the quick and the dead, it means the living and the dead. He says it was alive lately, but your own counsel killed it. You must not dare for shame to talk of mercy. For your own treasons turn into your bosoms. Well, what are their treasons? The knives they were going to stab Henry with, he said, are now turned inwardly into you. See you, my princes and my noble peers, these English monsters. My Lord of Cambridge here, you know how apt our love was to accord to furnish him with all appurtenance belonging to his honor. And this man hath for a few light crowns. You know Shakespeare, if there's a pun. For a few light crowns lightly conspired and sworn under the practices of France to kill us here in Hampton. Crowns, the royal coinage, to the which this knight, Grey, no less for bounty bound to us than Cambridge is, hath likewise sworn. So what shall I say to thee, Lord Scroop, thou cruel, ingrateful, savage, and inhuman creature? Why inhuman? What is Scroop going to do? Kill his Lord. Kill his Lord. For the king, that is an inhuman act. How? Because it goes against humanity. It breaks a bond of humanity. King, servant. Thou that didst bear the key of all my counsels, that knewest the very bottom of my soul, that almost mightst have coined me into gold, wouldst thou have practiced on me for thy use? May it be possible that foreign hire could out of thee extract one spark of evil that might annoy my finger? Foreign hire. Have you been bought? 'Tis so strange that though the truth of it stands off as gross as black and white, my eye will scarcely see it, meaning I can barely believe it of you. When he says, you knew the bottom of my soul, he's saying, we were closest friends, you and I. No. Okay? So let's pause there. Okay, which one is it? Is it down? Yes. And project. Here's kind of an image. Lights off. Sir Derek Jacobi, by the way, is the very esteemed actor portraying the part of Chorus. This is the Kenneth Branagh version.
French, advised by good intelligence of this most dreadful preparation.
Hold on a second, let me back up just too much. Wish I could do this frame by frame.
This most dreadful preparation shake in their fear, and with pale policy seek to divert the English purposes. Oh, England, modelled by inward greatness, like little body with a mighty heart, what mightst thou do that honour would thee do, or all thy children kind and natural? But see, thy fault France hath in thee found out, a nest of hollow bosoms, which he fills with treacherous crowns, and 3 corrupted men, one Richard Earl of Cambridge, and the second Henry Lord Scroop of Masham, And the third, Sir Thomas Grey, Knight of Northumberland. And for the guilt of France, oh, guilt indeed. Confirmed conspiracy with fearful France. And by their hand, this grace of kings must die ere he takes ship for France. The traitors are agreed. The king is set from London. And the scene is now transported, gentles, to Southampton.
Except that's Dover. That's not Southampton.
For God, his grace is bold to trust these traitors.
They shall be apprehended by and by.
How smooth and even they do bear themselves, as if allegiance in their bosoms had, crown it with faith and constant loyalty. The king hath no of all that they intend by interception, which they dream not of.
Nay, but the man that was his bedfellow, who hath dulled and cloyed with gracious favours, but he should, for a foreign purse, so sell his sovereign's life to death and treachery.
Now sits the wind fair, and we will abort. My Lord of Cambridge, and my kind Lord of Masham, and you, my gentle knight, give me your thoughts. Think you not that the powers we bear with us will cut their passage through the force of France?
No doubt, my liege, if each man do his best.
I doubt not that.
Never was monarch better feared and loved than is your majesty.
True. We therefore have great cause of thankfulness. Uncle of Exeter, enlarge the man committed yesterday that railed against our person. We consider it was excess of wine that set him on. And on his more advice we pardon him.
That's mercy, but too much security. Let him be punished, sovereign, lest example breed by his sufferance more of such a kind.
Oh. Let us yet be merciful.
So may your highness, and yet punish too.
Sir, you show great mercy if you give him life after the taste of much correction.
Alas, your too much love and care of me are heavy orisons against this poor wretch. If little faults proceeding on distemper shall not be winked at, how shall we stretch our eye when capital crimes, chewed, swallowed, and digested, appear before us? We'll yet enlarge that man, though Cambridge, Scroop, and Grey, in their dear care and tender preservation of our person, would have him punished. And now to our French causes. Who are the late commissioners?
I won, my lord. Your highness bade me ask for it today.
So did you me, my liege.
And I, my Royal Sovereign.
Then Richard, Earl of Cambridge, there is yours. There yours, Lord Scroop of Masham, and Sir Knight Grey of Northumberland, this same is yours. Read them, and know. I know your worthiness. My Lord of Westmoreland, Uncle Exeter, we will aboard tonight. Well, how now, gentlemen? What see you in those papers that you lose so much complexion?
I do confess my fault, and do submit me to your highness' mercy.
To which we all appeal.
The mercy that was quick in us of late by your own counsel is suppressed and killed. You must not dare, for shame, talk of mercy. For your own reasons turn into your bosoms as dogs upon their masters. What is it?
See you, my princes and my noble peers, these English monsters. What shall I say to thee, Lord Scroop? Thou cruel, ingrateful, savage, and inhuman creature.
That didst bear a key of all my counsels, that knewest the very bottom of my soul, that almost mightst have coined me into gold, which thou hast practised on me for thy use. May it be possible that foreign hire can out of thee extract one spark of evil that might annoy my finger. 'Tis so strange. But though the truth of it stand off as gross as black and white, my eye will scarcely see it. So constant and unspotted didst thou seem. But this thy fall hath left a candid blot to mark the full-fraught man, and best endued with some suspicion. I will weep for thee, for this revolt of thine, methinks, is like another form of man.
I arrest thee of high treason by the name of Richard, Earl of Cambridge. I arrest thee of high treason by the name of Thomas Grey, Knight of Northumberland. I arrest thee of high treason by the name of Henry Lord Scroop of Masham.
Hear your sentence. You have conspired against our royal person, joined with an enemy proclaimed, and from his coffers received the golden earnest of our death, wherein you would have sold your king to slaughter, his princes and his peers to servitude, his subjects to oppression and contempt, and his whole kingdom into desolation. Get you therefore hence, poor, miserable wretches, to your death. The taste whereof God of his mercy give you patience to endure, and true repentance of all your dear offences. Bear them hence. Now, lords, for France. The enterprise whereof shall be to you as us like glorious, since God so graciously hath brought to light this dangerous treason lurking in our way. Cheerly to see the signs of war advance. No king of England, if not king of France.
All right, that's false stuff. Now we're going to stop there for a moment. I'm going to bring the lights, sorry, back up. Okay, go on, and we're going to skip the next little scene with the hostess and pistol and such, and go on to Act 2, Scene 4, where we see the French king talking with his son, the Dauphin, okay, and the constable comes in Exeter. And Exeter wants to address the king as well as the Dauphin, and says, about line 77. He wills you in the name of God Almighty that you divest yourself and lay apart the borrowed glories that by gift of heaven, by law of nature and of nations, longs to him and to his heirs, that belongs, namely the crown, and all wide-stretched honors that pertain by custom and the ordinance of times unto the crown of France. That you may know 'tis no sinister, no awkward claim, picked from the wormholes of long-vanished days. In other words, he's saying King Henry hasn't come up with some kind of spurious reasons for claiming the crown of France. He says, no, his claim can go back by many years. No, he sends you this most memorable line and gives him a paper, in every branch truly demonstrative, willing you overlook this pedigree. This is, if you've ever seen the film A Knight's Tale, this is a patent, okay, of his genealogy, in which you see down at the bottom, Henry V, mother's line, father's line, tracing back, and he's saying both sides. He lays claim to the crown of France. So the French king says, and what if I say no? Bloody constraint. You will be constrained to give me this throne. For if you hide the crown even in your hearts, there will he rake for it. Therefore in fierce tempest is he coming, in thunder and in earthquake like a Jove. Okay, now, think of Kenneth Branagh, Henry V. Does he really look like a Jove? I mean, maybe Brian Blessed, the guy who plays Exeter, the guy with the long hair, big full beard and everything, nice, voice. He can look like a Jove. Kenneth Branagh kind of looks
Irredeemably boyish.
irredeemably boyish. Well, how old is Henry V? This is right after his father's death. Historically, he's only 19 or 20. In Henry IV Part 2, he was described as not yet being old enough to grow a beard. Okay, which is why he doesn't have a beard in Henry V. Kind of why the Tom Hiddleston version, I understand, makes him look hotter and everything, but it's not quite as good. Okay? So, and thunder and earthquake like a Jove, that if requiring fail, he will compel. And bids you in the bowels of the Lord. Not really sure entirely what that means, because it's kind of a disgusting image. Deliver up the crown, and to take mercy on the poor souls for whom this hungry war opens his vasty jaws. Don't think about yourself, O great and mighty King of France. Think of whom?
Your subjects.
The people of France. Okay? In the very next scene, we're going to have King Henry, attack Harfleur. Okay? Opens his vasty jaws, and on your head, turning the widow's tears, the orphan's cries, the dead man's blood, the private maiden's groans, for husbands, fathers, and betrothed lovers, they shall be swallowed in this controversy. Okay? So he goes out, and we see the chorus again. This time, in the Tom Hiddleston version, this is the very end of the King in Exeter.
Suppose now
Prologue.
that you see the English fleet with silken streamers the young Phoebus fanning. Hear the shrill whistle which doth order give to sounds confused. Behold the threatened sails borne with the invisible and creeping wind draw the huge bottoms through the furrowed
Huge
sea,
anachronism
breasting
here.
the lofty
They did not
surge.
have sailing ships like that in the early 15th century. Not at all.
Do but think you stand upon the ravage and behold a city on the inconstant billows dancing. For so appears this fleet majestical, holding due course to Harfleur. Follow, for who
Nor
is
did they
he
have
whose
black
chin
lords.
is but enriched with one appearing hair, that will not follow these cold and choice-drawn cavaliers to France? That fellow.
No king of England, if not king of France.
Suppose that Exeter from the French comes back, tells Harry that the king doth offer him Catherine his daughter, and with her to dowry some petty and unprofitable dukedom. The offer likes not. Work your thoughts, and therein see a siege. Behold the ordnance on their carriages with fatal mouths, gaping on girded Harfleur. With a linstock now the devilish cannon touches, and down goes all before them.
Nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger. Stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood. Disguise fair nature with hard, favoured rage. Now, set the teeth and stretch the nostril wide. Hold hard the breath and bend up every spirit to his full height. On! On, you noblest English! Dishonour not your mothers. Now attest that those whom you call fathers did beget you. Be copy now to men of grosser blood and teach them how to war. And you, good yeoman, whose limbs were made in England, show us here the metal of your posture. Let us swear that you are worth your breathing, which I doubt not. For there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble lustre in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the staff. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge, cry God for Harry, England, and St. George!
Training corporal, stay. The knocks are too hot.
Okay, stop there. Lights coming up. We're going to skip a bunch again. Go back to there. So we get the scene with Bardolph and Nym. Act 3, Scene 2. And then the Welsh captain Llewellyn. And I want to pick up with 3-3. The governor, some citizens enter along with the king. And the king with all of his train, let's see here, comes with him. And the king gives us this long speech. How yet resolves the governor of the town. That is, how have you decided? This is the latest peril we will admit. Therefore, to our best mercy, give yourselves, or like to men proud of destruction, defy us to our worst. That is, defy us till we reach our worst decision. We'll kill you all. That's what he's getting to. For as I am a soldier, a name that in my thoughts becomes me best, if I begin the battery once again, I will not leave the half-achieved Harfleur till in her ashes she lie buried. What does it mean, the half-achieved Harfleur? Half-conquered. Harfleur is almost gone, but it's also half-achieved. He's not saying literally that Harfleur is half-destroyed, but that's the metaphorical meaning. And he says, if you don't stop now, I'll raise it to the ground. Okay? The gates of mercy shall be all shut up, and the flesh soldier, rough and hard of heart, in liberty of bloody hand shall range, with conscience wide as hell, mowing like grass your fresh fair virgins and your flowering infants. If you don't surrender now, your women will be raped and your children will be murdered, is what he's saying. Notice where he puts all of the conscience. It's on the governor of Harfleur. If you do not surrender, my men will be guiltless of what will happen. What is it then to me if impious war? Notice, war is not something sacred. War is not an act of devotion. Okay? arrayed in flames like to the prince of fiends. He's already talked about hell, so now he's going to talk about the controller of hell, so to speak. Due with his smirched complexion, all fell feats, and linked to waste and desolation. What is it to me when you yourselves are cause? He's saying, I won't sleep poorly at night. If your pure maidens fall into the hand of hot, enforcing violation, what reign can hold licentious wickedness when down the hill he holds his fierce career? We may as bootless spend our vain command upon the enraged soldiers and their spoil as send precepts to the Leviathan to come ashore. You can as soon try to stop these soldiers in the midst of battle and war, to stop their actions, as you can call the whale to come sit on the edge of the sea. No. Therefore, you men of Harfleur, take pity of your town and of your people, whiles yet my soldiers are in my command. Because he's saying, once I let loose the dogs of war, the dogs are going to go wherever they want. Okay? This is an idea that, especially in the modern age, we really seem to have lost. This notion that men in battle will do what? Unconscionable things. That somehow, even in the midst, in the heat of a firefight, reason is somehow still in control. It's not. When you train somebody to kill in close quarters, you cannot expect them to only kill so far. You cannot expect them to have a sense of morality totally in control of all of their actions. Okay? So, whiles they are yet in my command, whiles yet the cool and temperate wind of grace overblows the filthy and contagious clouds of heady murder, spoil, and villainy. Now, at the moment of this parley, okay, the heady mind is in control. But if battle starts again, Henry is saying, all hell breaks loose. If not, why in a moment look to see the blind and bloody soldier with foul hand defile the locks of your shrill, shrieking daughters? Your fathers taken by the silver beards, and their most reverend heads dashed to the walls. Your naked infants spitted upon pikes. Just kind of let that sit in, sink in for a while. Whiles the mad mothers with their howls confused do break the clouds, as did the wives of Jewry at Herod's bloody hunting slaughtermen. What say you? He's saying, I present to you two choices. Daughters raped, children's bodies impaled on pikes, or peace. Will you yield and this avoid, or guilty in defense be thus destroyed? Our expectation hath this day an end. Our expectation. What does he mean? Our hope in this day. Our hope is gone. What was the hope? That we would be able to repel you. The Dauphin, whom of succors, that is comfort and aid, we entreated, returns us that his powers are yet not ready to raise so great a siege. The Dauphin, who we trusted in, who we put all our hope in, kind of like Hotspur putting all his hope in his father and Mortimer and Glendower in Henry IV Part 1, put his hope in the wrong individuals. They put their hope in the Dauphin. He can't raise yet the siege. Therefore, great King, we yield our town and lives to thy soft mercy. Enter our gates. Dispose of us and ours. kind of tricky language. For we no longer are defensible. Do with us as you please. Now, here he has said, if you give us the town, none of the things that I described will happen. So can he say, all right, men, have at them. What you find is yours. No, he can't. Because they won't be going into town in the full head of battle. They won't be going into town as essentially berserkers. People who are totally full of rage. Come, Uncle Exeter, go you and enter Harfleur. There remain and fortified strongly against the French. Use mercy to them all. Notice how heavy the play emphasizes this theme of mercy. When mercy is due and when it's not. Why doesn't the king grant mercy to Cambridge, Scroop, and Grey? And yet he does grant it to the French.
Well, first of all, he gives them an opportunity to demonstrate that they themselves possess mercy, which they don't appear to. Now, he was, on one hand, just screwing with their heads. On the other hand, they probably could have done themselves at least a little bit better.
How could they have better comported themselves? Oh, this mercy in you, O king, is great and wise. Instead, you're showing him mercy? Okay, I think Shakespeare has a biblical basis for that entire scene. He's thinking of the parable that Christ tells. Of the guy who has a servant, and the servant owes him like $1. Okay? And yet the guy is also a servant to a king. And he owes the king like 10 grand. And the king says, I forgive you your debt. And the guy says to the servant who owes him the $1, give me the $1. You can't? I'm throwing you into jail. The king hears about it and he's like, what the hell is with you? Damn you. I forgave you a huge sum of money. Somebody else owed you hardly anything, and you forgave him nothing. And then Christ takes that, turns to the disciples, and goes, okay, guys, what's it mean? And they're like, you know, they don't have a clue. Okay? So what's it mean? Don't be eager to deal out judgment. Judge not. Instead, do what? Show mercy. Because he goes on and says, he who is merciful, to him will be shown mercy. Okay? The king shows mercy to the one who owes him little. Scroop, Cambridge, and Grey owe how much to the king? They've plotted against his life. In fact, they've not only plotted, they are there at that location to kill him. They are still plotting, even while talking about mercy and justice to him. Okay? So, he tells Exeter, be merciful to them. And then we get the scene, which I'm going to skip entirely, with Catherine and Alice. And notice, it's all in French. Is that because Shakespeare hired a translator? He got on, Google Translator and no. It's because he knew French. Okay? Usually in film versions, I don't remember how it's done. In the Kenneth Branagh, it's all done in French. It was subtitles, yeah. I've not actually watched this scene in the Tom Hiddleston, so I don't know. Okay, go on to 3:5. 3:5, we see the French king again. with the Dauphin, a couple of his other lords, and what is the French king hearing? Things aren't necessarily going so well. Okay? Then we get 3-6 with Gower and Fluellen, etc. Pistol. And the king comes in and he starts to talk with Fluellen. And Montjoy, the messenger of the King of France, comes in. This is the same messenger that we saw earlier. It's the same messenger all throughout. And the reason Shakespeare does that is we're going to see this French messenger from his opening interaction with the King of England to his final interaction of the King of England. We're going to see this growing appreciation for King Henry. In other words, he initially sees the king and he's kind of like, you're just a kid. What do you know of majesty, of power, of glory, of kingship? And he's going to develop this appreciation and awareness that he might be young, but he was born with majesty. And not just because of his name. Okay? It's as Shakespeare will say in which play? It's not Mary. Is it the Merry Wives of Windsor? It's the play where the one guy talks about greatness. Some people have greatness thrust upon them. Some people are born great. Henry is born great. Okay? So, the king addresses Montjoy, and Montjoy says to him, page 897, this is Act 3, Scene 6, line 117. Thus says my king, say thou to Harry of England, though we seemed dead, we did but sleep. Advantage is a better soldier than rashness. Tell him we could have rebuked him at Harfleur. Yeah, sure you could. But that we thought not good to bruise an injury till it were full ripe. That is, to suffer a bruise, to bear an injury. Now we speak upon our cue, and our voice is imperial. Like he's the Holy Roman Emperor. England shall repent his folly, see his weakness, and admire our sufferance, our endurance. Bid him, therefore, consider of his ransom, which must proportion the losses we have borne, the subjects we have lost, the disgrace we have digested, which in wait to answer his pettiness would bow under. For our losses, his exchequer is too poor, meaning, for the losses we have borne, the Bank of England does not have enough money to pay the debt. That's what's meant by the exchequer. For the effusion of our blood, the muster of his kingdom, too faint a number. He doesn't have enough people in all of England to repay us for our loss of dead. And for our disgrace, his own person kneeling at our feet, but a weak and worthless satisfaction. Now, there's one thing you have to say for the French. They can give a good speech. And spoken in French, it just sounds fantastic. But as happens all too often with the French, words aren't deeds. To this add defiance, and tell him, for conclusion, he hath betrayed his followers, that is, all those English knights and yeomen that are with him, whose condemnation is pronounced. So far my king and master, so much my office. Notice the king's response. What's your name? He doesn't, get all wild up. Why does he ask him his name?
He's an interesting guy.
It could be. Why else?
To kind of say that he doesn't know it.
Okay,
He's
because
not a known person.
you're a messenger, you're a nobody. I think there's another reason. I think by asking his name, that gives Henry a moment. A moment to think. It doesn't take long. If you've ever been around someone, I don't mean someone like Henry V, but someone like him who is fast on his feet, that is, here's an example of someone who's not. Mitt Romney is not Henry V in terms of being fast on his feet with a really good rejoinder. Okay? Bill Clinton is. You say something to Clinton, boom. I mean, he doesn't seemingly even have to think about it. Okay? Joe Biden is not. Because usually what comes out of Joe Biden's mouth is something from, Venus. I mean, who knows what's going to come out of the mouth.
He does have something to say. It's just that.
Well, he always has something to say.
When the man fires, there's no telling what he's going to hit.
Or what he's going to fire, exactly. I mean, okay. Paul Ryan is usually pretty good on his feet, since I've hit political, candidates. So, here's Montjoy. Thou dost thy office fairly. In other words, you are a good herald. Turn thee back and tell thy king, I do not seek him now. What has the king said? Here's what I'll accept. Henry, on his knees before me. Even that won't be enough, but it'll be a start. So Henry says, tell the king I do not seek him now, but would be willing to march on to Calais without impeachment. In other words, if he wants to meet me, here's where he can find me. Calais is one of the French coastal cities. When the air is clear on the English Channel, you can see the lights of Calais. When my family and I were at Dover 2 summers ago, summer of 2011, it was very clear. I mean, you could make out the entire coastline of France, which you usually can't. So he says, for, to say the sooth, which is the truth, though 'tis no wisdom to confess so much unto an enemy of craft and vantage, my people are with sickness much enfeebled. My numbers lessened, those few I have, almost no better than so many French. Notice the little dig there. We're sick, we're tired, my numbers have dwindled, but what few I have, they're still better than the French. Who, when they were in health, I tell thee, herald, I thought upon one pair of English legs did march 3 Frenchmen. In other words, 1 Englishman is as good as 3 Frenchmen. Yet forgive me, God, that I do pray. Thus your heir of France hath blown that vice in me. What vice? Braggadocio. He's just accused the French king of being a braggart. Okay? I must repent. Go therefore, tell thy master, here I am. This is George Bush's bring it on, buddy. My ransom is this frail and worthless trunk. Touches his body, points to his body. My army but a weak and sickly guard. Yet God before him, tell him, we will come on. Though France himself and such another neighbor stand in our way. And he gives some money to Montjoy. Bid thy master well advise himself. Meaning, seek good advice and take internally, through his own thought, good counsel. If we may pass, we will. Now, when he says he's heading to Calais, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go capture Calais, because Calais is already captured. He's saying, we're going to go rest our bones. We need a little break. But if he will let us go there unhindered, that's where he can find us. But if he tries to stop us, we shall your tawny ground with your red blood discolor. We're tired. We're sick. We're outnumbered, but we will fight. And so, Montjoy, fare you well. The sum of all our answer is but this. We would not seek a battle as we are, nor as we are, we say we will not shun it. So tell your master. So what has he told the French king? Is he saying, bring it on? Is he saying we're tired? Let us recoup our losses, so to speak, and then fight us? Or is he kind of throwing an ambivalent response back to him? Saying, we are tired, we are sick, we are outnumbered. We would prefer not to fight, but if you're going to make us, we will. It's the French king's choice. What? Go ahead.
It seems to me almost as much as like he's showing the King of France indifference and calling his bluff, so to speak, that he doesn't think he'll actually come out and fight.
I think you're exactly right. I think he's essentially saying, I don't really care what you do. We're making our way to Calais. If you try and stop us, we'll fight you. If you don't, then that's where we're going to be. You'll find us sooner or later. That's why he said, "'Tis no wisdom to confess so much unto an enemy of craft and vantage." In other words, I shouldn't be telling you this, but if you want to fight us, that is, if there really are deeds behind your words, you know where to find me. Okay? So, Montjoy leaves. We see the Dauphin have his what do I want to call this? His council with Orleans and Constable, etc. And we get the chorus entering at Act 4. Okay? Which I need to see if I can find real quick. That's going to be... These lights. Hold on. That's the Dauphin. Okay. Paul Schofield plays the king in this one. So it's not part 4. There it is.
But if you hide the crown, even in your hearts, there will he rage for it. Therefore, in fierce tempest is he coming, in thunder and in...
Okay, we're going to skip that part.
Sirs, the ambassador from the French comes back, tells Harry that the king does offer him Catherine, his daughter, and with her to dowry some petty and unprofitable dukedoms. The offer likes him not. And the noble gunner, with linstock now, the devilish cannon touches, and
sorry.
flame goes all before them.
They did that differently also. Yeah, they really play around with... Oh, let me show this scene again. This is the once more under the breach.
This is the latest pall we will admit.
Therefore, to our best mercy give yourselves, or like to men proud of destruction, defy us to our worst. For as I am a soldier, if I begin the battery once again, I will not leave the half a chaste Harfleur, till in her ashes she lie buried. Therefore, ye men of Harfleur, take pity of your town and of your people, whilst yet my soldiers are in my command, whilst yet the cool and temperate wind of grace o'erblows the filthy and contagious clouds of heady murder, spoil, and villainy. If not, why, in a moment, look to see the blind and bloody soldier with foul hand, defiled the locks of your shrill, shrieking daughters. Your fathers taken by the silver beards and the most reverend heads dashed to the walls. Your naked infants spitted upon pikes, whilst the mad mothers, with their howls confused, do break the clouds. What say you? Will you yield, and this avoid? Or guilty in defense, be thus destroyed? The Dauphin, of whose succor we entreated.
Okay, gone over that. Now,
For us, dear uncle, winter coming on.
this is Dauphin, the king again. It's the king and Fluellen. It's the king thinking back about Falstaff. Okay, and here comes the I'll start there. He's just hung Bardolph for stealing from the French churches.
Thus, says my king, say thou to Harry of England, though we seemed dead, we did but sleep. Tell him we could have rebuked him at half fleur. Now we speak, and our voice is imperial. England shall repent his folly. Bid him, therefore, consider of his ransom, which must proportion the losses we have borne, which in wait to re-answer his pettiness would bow under. To this add defiance, and tell him, for conclusion, he hath betrayed his followers, whose condemnation is pronounced. So far, my king and master, so much my office.
Okay, stop there for a minute. Notice the way they film this. Who's all around Henry? The king. His army. Okay? It's not an embassy of the messenger speaking solely to the king and one or two counselors. So when he says he hath betrayed his people, keep in mind, most of his army has been conscripted. They aren't guys who are, signing up to go and fight for God, king, and country. They are people who would just soon be back home in bed. Okay? So when he does that, he kind of raises fears, raises doubts in the army's mind.
What is thy name?
Not Joy.
Thou dost thy office fairly.
Turn thee back, and tell thy king I do not seek him now, but could be willing to march on to Calais without impeachment. Go therefore, tell thy master, here I am. My ransom is this frail and worthless trunk. My army but a weak and sickly guard. Yet God before, tell him we will come on, though France himself and such another neighbour stand in our way. And Montjoy, fare you well. The sum of all our answer is but this: we would not seek a battle as we are, nor as we are we say we will not shun it.
So tell your master.
I shall deliver, sir. Thanks, dear Majesty.
I hope they will not come upon us now.
We are in God's hand, brother, not in theirs.
Rather auspicious,
Could be worse. Could be raining.
Could be worse, could be raining, and then it starts to rain. Okay, and so we have the chorus again. We're going to skip a bunch here. And we go back to the Dauphin. We need to. That was part 7. 8. There's a particular scene I'm looking for, and I don't remember if it's the same scene and such as in the book because in the text. Cause they moved
I'll go arm myself.
That's the Dauphin. Make sure this is the scene I'm looking for. Yeah, I think it is. This is going to be a fairly long one. The English camp at night. You know, keep in mind what the messenger said and said it loudly and publicly.
Rises by the watchful fires, sit patiently and inly ruminate the morning's danger.
This is beginning of Act 4. Should be.
And their gestures sad, investing lank lean cheeks.
It's line 26.
Presenteth them unto the gazing moon.
Page 900.
So many holly ghosts. Oh, now. Who will behold the royal captain of this ruined band? Walking from watch to watch, from tent to tent. Let him cry praise and glory on his head, for forth he goes and visits all his host. Bids them good morning with a modest smile, and calls them brothers, friends, and countrymen. A largesse universal, like the sun, his liberal eye doth give to everyone. Thawing cold fear, that mean and gentle all behold, as may unworthiness define, a little touch of Harry in the night.
Pause there for a minute. Why is it significant that Harry walks around during the camp at night? What does that show? Keeps morale up, cares about his people. Sorry, my allergies are going crazy. What else?
He may have his own doubts.
Okay. Why can he do that so easily? Shows that he trusts them. What did he do before he showed his glittering reformation? His friends were the mean. The language that the chorus just used, talking about the mean and the gentle. The gentle are the upper class. The mean are the lower class. Okay? So he can mix with the high and mighty, and he can mix with the low and down and out, as it were. So he's going around, he's listening, he's touching people on the arms, he's spreading, as the chorus said, a little bit of Harry around. So they all get to see and experience him to some degree or another.
Good morrow, old Sir Thomas. A good soft pillow for that good white head will better than a churlish turf of France.
Not so, my liege. This lodging likes me better, since I may say, now lie I like a king.
Lend me that cloak, Sir Thomas. Brothers, both commend me to the princes in our camp. Do my good morrow to them, and anon desire them all to my pavilion.
We shall, my liege.
attend your grace?
No, my good knight. I and my bosom must debate a while, and then I would no other company.
The Lord in heaven bless thee, noble Harry. God a mercy, old heart. Thou speakest cheerfully.
Kiva!
A friend.
Discuss unto me. Art thou officer? Or art thou base, common, and popular?
I am a gentleman of a company.
Trainest thou to piss on pike?
Even so. What are you?
As good a gentleman as the Emperor.
Ah, then you are a better than the king.
The king's a bullcock and a heart of gold. A lad of life and imp of fame. Of parents good, of fist most valiant. I kiss his dirty shoe. And from heartstring I love the lovely good. What is thy name?
Harry Leroy.
Right. A Cornish name.
No, I am a Welshman.
Means Harry the King, by the way.
Knowest thou Llewellyn?
Aye.
Tell him I'll knock his leek about his pate upon St. David's Day.
Now, do not you wear your dagger in your cap that day, lest he knock that about yours.
Art thou his friend?
And his kinsman, too.
The figure of thee, then.
I thank you. God be with you.
My name is Pistol called.
It sorts well with your fierceness.
Captain Llewellyn.
In the name of Jesus Christ, speak lower. If you would take the pains but to examine the walls of Pompey the Great, you shall find, I warrant you, that there is no tilt of tattle or pimple tattle in Pompey's camp.
Why, the enemy is loud, you hear him all night.
If the enemy is an ass and a fool and a prating coxcomb, is it meet, think you, that we should also look you be an ass and a fool and a prating coxcomb? In your conscience.
I will speak lower.
I pray you and beseech you that you will.
Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Brother John Bates, he's not like the morning which breaks yonder.
I think it be, but we have no great cause to desire the approach of day.
You see yonder the beginning of the day. I think we shall never see the end of it. Who goes there?
A friend.
Under what captain, serve you?
Under Sir Thomas Eppingham.
A good old commander, and a most kind gentleman. I pray you, what thinks he of our estate?
Even as men wrecked upon a sand that looked to be washed off with the next tide.
He hath not told his thought to the king.
No. Nor it is not meet he should. I think the king is but a man, as I am. The violet smells to him as it doth to me. His ceremony is laid by. In his nakedness he appears but a man. Therefore, when he sees reasons of fear, as we do, his fears out of doubt be of the same relish as ours are.
He may show what outward courage he will, but I believe as cold a night as 'tis that he could wish himself in Thames up to the neck. And so I would he were, and I'd buy him. At all adventures, so we were quit here.
I think he would not wish himself anywhere but where he is.
Then I would he were here alone,
Methinks I could not die anywhere so contented as in the king's company, his cause being just, and his quarrel honourable.
That's more than we know. Aye, more than we should seek after. For we know enough if we know we are the king's subjects. If his cause be wrong, our obedience to the king wipes the crime of it out of us.
Okay. That's a very important line. If the king's cause be wrong, then the soldiers fighting for the king, according to this soldier, are guiltless for all of their actions in the war. Because who is commanding them? The king. All the guilt be upon his head. It's part of this notion, it's tied to the idea of the divine right of kings, that kings rule by God's express authority. So what kings say and do, they say kind of in the place of God. Therefore, if a king is wrong, the king is answerable directly to God. And those who are under the king, answering the king's, obeying the king's rules, aren't answerable to God for it. Right?
But if the cause be not good, the king himself hath a heavy reckoning to make. And all those legs and arms and heads chopped off in a battle shall join together at the latter day and cry, oh, we died at such a price. Some swearing, some crying for a surgeon, some upon their wives that poor behind them, some upon the debts they owe, some upon their children who are left.
We've only got a few more minutes, but I want to try and finish this scene.
I'm feared that a few die well, that die in a battle. But how can they charitably dispose of anything when blood is their argument? Now, if these men do not die well, it will be a black matter for the king that led them to it.
So the son that is by his father sent about merchandise to sinfully miscarry upon the sea, the imputation of his wickedness by your rule should be imposed upon the father that sent him. But this is not so. The king is not bound to answer the particular endings of his soldiers, nor the father of his son, for they purpose not their deaths when they purpose their services. Besides, there is no king, be his cause never so spotless, can try it out with all unspotted soldiers. Every son.
Notice the king takes what the one soldier said and said, Your actions don't fall on me. My actions don't fall on you. Fall mean on a spiritual kind of sense, not obviously the king's actions do fall on them because they're fighting the king's war, etc. Okay?
Subject's duty is the king's, but every subject's soul's his own.
Tis certain, every man that dies ill, be it upon his own head. The king is not to answer it. I do not desire he should answer for me. And yet I determined to fight lustily for him.
I myself heard the king say he would not be ransomed.
Aye, he said so to make us fight cheerfully. But when our throats are cut, he may be ransomed and we near the wiser.
If I live to see it, I'll never trust his word after.
You pay him then. You'll never trust his word after. No, it's a foolish saying.
Your reproof is something too round. I should be angry with you if time were convenient.
Let it be a quarrel between us, if you live. Be friends, you English fools, be friends. We're French balls enough.
See, Llewellyn just recognized the king. He overheard part of the conversation and saw when William slapped him with the gauntlet, challenging him to a duel. That's what that means.
Let us our lives, our souls, our debts, our careful wives, our children, and our sins lay on the king. We must bear all. Oh, hard condition. Twin born with greatness, subject to the breath of every fool. What infinite heart's ease must kings neglect that private men enjoy? And what have kings that privates have not to, save ceremony? And what art thou, thou idle ceremony? What drinks thou oft instead of homage sweet, but poisoned flattery? Oh, be sick, great greatness, and bid thy ceremony give thee cure. Canst thou, when thou commandst the beggar's knee, command the health of it? No, thou proud dream that playest so subtly with a king's repose. I am a king that find thee, and I know. 'Tis not the balm, the sceptre and the ball, the sword, the mace, the crown imperial, the interdissue robe of gold and pearl, the facet title running for the king, the throne he sits on, nor the tide of pomp that beats upon the high shore of this world. No, not all these thrice gorgeous ceremony, not all these laid in bed majestical, can sleep so soundly as the wretched slave, who with a body filled and vacant mind gets him to rest, crammed with distressful bread, never sees horrid night, the child of hell, but like a lackey from the rise to the set, sweats in the eye of Phoebus, and all night sleeps in Elysium. Next day after dawn doth rise, and helped by peering to his horse, and follows so the ever-running year with profitable labour to his grave. And but for ceremony, such a wretch, winding up days with toil and nights with sleep, had the forehand and vantage of a king.
Okay, we'll stop there. We'll finish Henry V on Tuesday and probably start